Hey, I want to take a quick second today to address something that was sent to me in an email by a viewer named Charles T. He sent me an email in which he stated that don't we have to admit that some ATF regulations actually prevent crime, since no one really uses SBRs in crimes. You don't see an SBR used in a crime in any noticeable rate of occurrence. Now, an SBR is a short-barreled rifle, and short-barreled rifles are deemed to be dangerous because, they're shorter than a regular rifle, so therefore they're easier to conceal. You can sneak them in someplace, and then you would have a rifle to use to do whatever you want to do with it, create mayhem, murder, etc. So they are not banned, but they're restricted. You have to jump through hoops to get one. You have to go through a special background check. You have to fill out special forms. You have to pay $200. And he says, since they're not being used and we have these regulations in place, isn't that showing that the regulations are actually stopping them from being used? And no, that is not the case. That is just faulty logic. It does not stand up to actual logical scrutiny. Because here's the thing. It is illegal to kill someone with a knife. It's illegal to stab somebody. But people do it all the time. You can easily get knives, so bad guys quite often stab other people. Sometimes each other, sometimes good people. And that's a problem. So it has to be illegal to use knives improperly if you want to put these people in jail. But a lot of people say, well, if they couldn't get the knives, they wouldn't be able to stab people. But knives are used for so many things that you can't really ban the knife, so you just have to make it illegal to kill people because knives themselves are useful. Now, let's look at something else. Let's look at frozen turkeys. It would be illegal for me to run around the streets beating people to death with a frozen turkey. But you know what? Bad guys don't beat people to death with frozen turkeys. It's not a problem. It's not regulated at all. Anyone can go buy a frozen turkey, but there's not enough of an occurrence there to actually write laws regulating frozen turkeys. Because no one uses them in a crime. No one really goes around and beats people to death with frozen turkeys. It's just not an issue. SBRs are more like frozen turkeys than they are knives. And people would say, well, no, they're not, because you can easily get a knife. You can't get an SBR unless you jump through these extra hoops. Well, that's garbage. That's just a garbage notion. If you want an SBR like this one right here, like this right here, this is one of the SIG SBRs. It's got the folding stock. It's got the short barrel. This right here, you have to jump through hoops to get if you want to buy this from a retailer like I did. You have to fill out a form. You have to go through a long background check that takes several months. You have to pay an extra $200, and then you get your gun. And people say, well, because you had to jump through those hoops and that shows that you're not the kind of person who would commit a crime, then that's preventing people from using SBRs in crimes. But that's not the reality of it, because anyone can get an SBR just like they can get a frozen turkey or a knife. Because the reality is, if I wanted to buy that one, I have to go through special checks. But you can buy this with no special check whatsoever. This is basically an SBR with no stock. In fact, there's a little sticker on the back of it right there that says, if you put a stock on this, you're a criminal. But here's the thing. If someone's going to kill somebody, do they care if they're also going to face an extra charge for putting a stock on a gun like this? They're not. So it's not the fact that they can't get the gun that's stopping them. It's not the fact they don't want to break a rule. It's just the fact that this isn't that practical to use in a crime. And you might be able to say, well, but it's not an SBR because they don't have a stock on it and you can't get the stock. Well, you can. Here's the stock for it right here. You can go out and buy the stock easily. You can buy the gun separately, the stock separately. You just can't buy them together because of the rule. So if I was wanting to use this in a crime, I could just buy the gun and then go buy the stock and then stick them together. The only reason I don't have these two together right now is because my paperwork hasn't come back yet for this one. And since I have filed my paperwork and I am showing that I am trying my best to be in compliance with the law, I can still legally own these two things together, just can't put them together. And if I hadn't filed my paperwork, I can't even own both of these things at the same time, but nothing stops me from getting them. So if I was a bad guy wanting to do that, I could easily do it. So therefore, the fact that the item itself is easily obtainable, I can easily get an SBR. Anybody can. Anyone that can legally buy a gun can get an SBR. But they're not committing crimes with them because it's just not practical. It's not something people plan out. If they're planning out a mass attack, They don't want to use an SBR. And most killings are fits of rage, spur of the moment things. They're not planned at all, where they're gang related, where they want something they can easily hide, like a pistol. These things just aren't an issue. So there's no reason for there to be a regulation on them other than the fact that the government wants to have control of what we own and wants to make money off of what we buy. So that's the only reason those laws exist. They don't stop any crime. The only thing that stops the crime is the fact that they're not practical and that law-abiding people don't break the rules and put stuff on them. And even if I didn't commit a crime with it, who would know? So, but as you can see here, they're not together. I'm not committing a crime because I'm a law-abiding person. But if I was a criminal, I'd put it together, I'd use it if it was practical. But it's not. So as you can see, there's no evidence that that law stops any crimes because people can get one if they jump through the hoops. People can easily get one if they don't jump through the hoops. Good guys can get them. Bad guys can get them as long as they can legally buy a gun. And you can't get one if you can't legally buy a gun anyway. But if you can legally buy a gun, that extra step does not prevent you from breaking the law and using it in a crime because you can easily build it without going through that extra step. So therefore, the law stops nothing. It's just ridiculous. So don't think that things like that actually prove that gun control worked because they don't. If gun control worked, there'd be no gun crimes because it's already illegal to kill someone with a firearm.